As you look out at the mists, a figure struts forward, gliding as though made of air. You know that vicious smirk, those hypnotic eyes. Strahd has returned once more. Or you look upon the wild sorcerer as he swings his staff with great gusto in a motion you know all too well. Fire parts the room. You know you're too injured to pass through, and so does he. Kellic once again slips from your grasp. As DMs, it's very tempting to chase the ideal of a big bad evil guy the party run into repeatedly, where no matter how close the party gets to slaying them, they always manage to slip away. It's something that we see in fiction a lot, along with the unstoppable villain the heroes cannot defeat head-on, so must complete other goals like stealing some artifact or killing the most competent lackey. But as I'm sure many DMs can attest, making such a villain happen can be incredibly difficult. Players aren't inclined to let enemies escape most of the time, especially if they don't surrender. And they aren't typically thrilled when the DM prevents them from stopping the enemy escaping for the sake of their narrative. It's effectively saying this person is off limits, in which case attempting to stop them at all is largely pointless. The party know they can never truly win, so why bother? This is why it's important to remember one key difference between a recurring and non-recurring villain. The DM doesn't really get to decide who is who. A recurring villain is created by the player's failure to stop the villain from escaping, not the DM succeeding in pulling their villain away. Put simply, if you aren't ready for a villain's appearance to be their last, don't put them in front of your players. They can still communicate, be it via letters, sending stones, project images, etc. But if you aren't ready to let your party kill your baby, don't put them in the position where they can roll initiative against them. And I'd go so far as to encourage never planning to have a villain be a recurring one, and have any enemy potentially become one. Say the party are fighting a gang of bandits and they kill the captain, then let some of the bandits escape. Make a note of those bandits. Perhaps they return later as a more battle-hardened group the party must now deal with. This makes the world more dynamic, and makes it feel like life goes on whether the party is there or not. Although if you do it too much, it will lead to your party adopting a no-survivors attitude. To prevent this, I'd recommend having a good mix of returning foes, enemies showing up later having returned to a normal life, and even coming back as allies. Given that people are hardwired to remember negative experiences more than positive ones, I'd go so far as to say you should reward your players for not slaughtering their way through fleeing enemies about twice as often as you punish them for it. You may wonder, why go through so much effort to have a villain show up again rather than be a one and done? There is a notable advantage to using an enemy who's already been in a fight with the party. Namely, that they can learn from those fights. So perhaps the party has repeatedly faced a Lich, and the Lich knows the party's wizard is a pyromancer. So, the Lich has their minions all drink potions of fire resistance in their next encounter. It also allows for the party to feel smart when they come prepared to counter the villain's usual tricks, and perhaps figure out a way to stop them from escaping. It's tempting to say an intelligent foe would always have a different escape method, but put simply, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. A lot of intelligent villains would assume the party was simply too stupid to find a way to stop them. So, say your villain relies on the contingency spell with a stored dimension door inside that triggers when they're about to die or are bloodied or the like. Let the party figure out they can dispel that contingency. Let your villains get complacent just as players can, and let your party exploit this. A reoccurring villain needs more personality than your typical villain. While a mustache-twirling bandit is fine as a one-off, when they start showing up again and again, if there's nothing more to them than greed, they can quickly go from an interesting villain to a chore. The party want to research this person important enough to keep showing up, learn about their history, motivations, relationships, allies, and rivals. A paragraph per encounter is likely enough, but it is important to ensure there's always a hook for the party to discover to allow you to keep reeling them in. Don't mistake this for me saying every recurring villain needs to be sympathetic. Maybe the party learns that the Lich killed the lover of a very powerful individual, and this hook leads them to making a new alliance that makes their next encounter more interesting. There just needs to be a new page to turn to stop them from getting stale. One way to do this is to have a dynamic villain rather than a static one. A static villain doesn't really change much between encounters. Their goals remain largely the same, their stat block doesn't change, and when the party learns more about the villain, it doesn't typically change how they view them, but instead provides them with leads or context. A dynamic villain does change between appearances, be it their skill set where they attain a higher CR stat block, or perhaps their worldview shifts in response to the party. When the party researches them, they can learn about what the villain is currently doing, and that may change how they view the villain, for better or for worse. So, with all this in mind, I'd like to provide some examples of such villains. When the 2024 Monster Manual came out, one of the things that stuck out to me was how many monsters had gained a trait that acted like the Lich's spirit jar. It gave me the idea of a villain party made up of rejuvenating monsters. They have a shared history, relationships the party can take advantage of, and goals to inspire how you may include them in a campaign. They're called the Twisted Fates, a group of adventurers who discovered they were prophesized to die unspeakably brutal deaths. And should the party slay them, always make sure the deaths end up fulfilling fate. Each and every one of them found their own unique way of avoiding death. Chella Makan, the Refused. Chella has always been a single-minded individual. A warrior born and raised, he loves the thrill of battle and seeks nothing more than to prove he is the greatest fighter on the battlefield. Morals have never been much of a concern for Chella. He cares not for right or wrong, only winning or losing. He won't steal or anything of the sort, as there is no blood victory in petty crimes, but he will gladly kill anyone who makes some sort of challenge to him, regardless of if they intended it to be a call to battle or not. Legends say he turned himself into a changeling to attempt to confuse fate so it could not find him when the time came. This is born from the fact that his face has changed countless times over the centuries, but it is not true. When it came time for Chella to die, he decided to face death head-on. He charged his fate with as large an army as he could muster and fell in battle. But so great was his will to survive, his spirit endured while his body withered. Now a ghost, he stalks the world seeking host after host to prolong his existence. Chella values strength over all else. Whenever his host body is slain, he tries to possess the one that slew him, assuming that they must be physically stronger than his old host. He wants to find the perfect, unkillable host. Largost Kelisak, the Eternal. Once a talented mage and teacher of a wizarding academy, Largost's life ambition was to work his way to headmaster. In order to acquire such talents, he decided to take a leave of absence from school to go adventuring in the hopes of discovering lost arcane secrets that would grow his power. He assembled himself an adventuring party to aid him. Initially, nothing more than mercenaries, but over time, the group grew close. So when they discovered they were fated to die horrible deaths, Largost vowed to protect his friends by any means necessary. His name is a subject of fear and scorn in tales of myth. How he escaped his fate is a matter of record, as he made no attempt to obscure his new form. He made sure to fulfill his predicted fate, technically, by dying a horrible and violent death as part of the ritual to become a Lich. He sacrificed all the souls of the students and faculty of his school to ensure he had plenty of time to plan how to ensure his friends also escaped their fate. Since saving his friends, Largost has taken after the dreaded Archlich Vecna. He's not convinced anything short of godhood can repel fate permanently. He's made several excursions into the astral plane seeking a dead god's blood in the hopes of finding out what the god's portfolio used to be and taking it, so that he need not fight a living god for their domain. He uses a network of aliases to contract adventurers to not only seek the blood of a dead god, but also artifacts from tombs or the vaults of powerful entities that may get him closer to figuring out how to ascend. His most desired item is the Book of Vile Darkness. Marlak Baronlust, the Devoted. Once a devoted cleric of the Morning Lord, Marlak joined Largost for two reasons. She foolishly believed she could redeem Chella, and she wanted to track down some artifacts of her faith to earn the favour of her god. When she discovered she was fated to die a horrible death, she felt betrayed by the Morning Lord and the gods. From that moment on, she devoted herself wholly and fully to her friends, and vowed to have her revenge. Marlak became a mummy lord with the help of Largost, and has since pledged herself to Asmodeus in their mutual hatred of the other gods. Marlak has made it very clear to Asmodeus she intends to kill him too, in the spirit of honesty and their working relationship. She doesn't approve of Largost's quest to become divine, and keeps arranging distractions for him while she pursues any means available to slay a god. As part of her pact with Asmodeus, she makes use of a mirror of life trapping to capture souls for him to be turned into soul coins. Sartel Magul, the Radiant. Once a paladin of Bahamut, Sartel has always devoted herself to the ideals of justice. She joined the group at Marlak's request reluctantly, finding Largos to be naive, Trakesh to be irritating, and Chella reprehensible. When she discovered she was destined to die, she immediately assumed it was a punishment for allowing her righteousness to be tarnished by the company she keeps. In her anger, Marlak and Largost managed to convince her to take the body of a Deva in the hopes of becoming more just. This process involved tricking the Deva into becoming a willing recipient of the magic aura spell, then trapping its soul in a magic jar. She has since become convinced that she is infallible as an angel. Whatever her instincts tell her must be the righteous thing to do. So if she decides you are evil, then you must be. She has declared her old allies to be vile and worthy of death. She actively seeks to bring about their destruction and does not care what she must do to get the job done. This includes consorting with devils to have Trakesh killed, or blackmailing adventurers into attempting to find and slay Largost or Marlak. Trakesh Gold Tongue, the Silver. Trakesh was a dashing rogue and schemer who relied on wit to get him through life. He started as a scam artist aiming for the richest in society, but he got a thirst for outwitting and outsmarting others through deceit. He joined Largos to prove he was smarter than him, and consistently failed to do so. Each failure just spurred him towards increasingly convoluted schemes and puzzles. When he discovered his fate, he was determined to outwit death. His greatest accomplishment was tricking a devil into giving him their true name, which he used to compel them into making him a Rakshasa. As a being of deception, Trakesh continues his goal to prove himself the smartest there is. He delights in making puzzles to stump and slay adventurers, although his ego prevents him from making a truly unfair puzzle. He wears many faces and has several concurrent identities. His favourites are Layla, the human street urchin, Hector, the elf foreign prince, and Trace, the tiefling detective. He uses them to gather information about his teammates, send adventurers into traps of his own design, to act as a quest giver when necessary, and as an opportunity to prove his superior intellect in conversation, even if doing so would be detrimental to his disguise. If you liked the video, consider subscribing and leaving a like. It really helps this video in the dreaded algorithm. And if you want a write-up of the above, please consider joining as a free member of our Patreon, where you can get not just my thoughts on recurring villains, but alternate lycanthropes, how to create a god, prepping combats to be scalable, how to roughly convert 2014 monsters into 2024 monsters, and much more. And please stick around. We're a newly formed TTRPG design duo looking to make DM tip videos and create resources to help DMs with running the game. This video was decided by a poll, so I thought why not do the same for my next video. So the ideas that didn't win the last poll will be returning, which was rules for making titanic monsters and talking about how to handle the new hiding rules. Joining them will be what you can learn from Powered by the Apocalypse games, and why I prefer D&D Next and 1D&D over 5e.